Welcome to episode 13 of Endorian Guitar Works Backstage.
Hello. It's a guided look at life experiences and the ways and means of the guitarist's journey.
Someday we'll say that without stuttering. We'll get through it.
Or having to read the screen.
We will get through it. Is it on the screen? It is on the screen. I put it on the screen.
With us tonight is our good friend Jim Farley of The Common Thread.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming
Happy
out.
to be here.
Yeah.
So I heard that there was a special day a couple days ago.
There was a special day a couple days ago. This young man had his anniversary of birth.
That's correct.
You turned 17 and a half?
37.
37.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, man.
18 with a few years of experience on top of it.
There we go.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much.
Happy.
Jim is a guest that we've been wanting to have on here for some time. Not only is he an accomplished musician, but he is a good friend, and that's not just, keeping the Olympia circle small, but he needed to be on the show, and so episode 13 seemed like a good chance to do it. We'll find out if it's bad luck or good luck later in the day, shall we?
Good luck. It's his birthday. Come on.
I would hope so. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Now, we're thrilled to have, let's see, Brian and I played with Jim in our band Gunslinger once upon a time, and we've talked about Gunslinger a bit, but right now,
we
Jim's...
can get into that a little bit later.
We
talk
can.
about some songwriting and stuff. But.
Jim's doing some really cool things right now with a band called The Common Thread, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But
yeah, and hopefully another band that we'll have on the show for you guys to meet.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And I've already talked with the rest of the guys in the band about doing that, and everybody's on board. We just have to pick a time and a date to do it. So
maybe we'll have the whole band play right over there.
That would be great.
Just point all the cameras that way.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm always looking to see how we can push the limits of the bottom floor of this place.
Bottom floor. There's still something below, but we might get to that later too.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you the introduction that was given to me on a podcast 2 weeks ago, which was simply, Jim, tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Jim Farley.
Close.
I've been a musician since I was 10 years old in one form or another. Started out by playing trombone, as did Brian.
You guys both played the trombone?
Yes.
Yeah, we were just 4 years apart.
Brian and I didn't know each other when we were in school together. Brian and I didn't meet until later on in adulthood. We actually met through
like 15 years
your
ago.
ex-girlfriend's softball team, but then we started talking about music and heavy metal, and that's where the friendship really began. But no, for myself as a musician, I started as a trombone player and eventually became a jazz trombone player, and really started to branch out as a musician when in 8th grade we had so many trombones in the concert band that I was asked to switch over and become a baritone player.
Wow.
And so I learned how to play baritone or euphonium, depending on, who calls it what. But which is basically like a miniature tuba, for anybody that doesn't know. It's a tuba that sounds like a trombone. So it was not too far from what I was already comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And so then from there, I thought to myself, what else can I learn how to play? And so midway through high school, after having already done the concert band thing for a couple years, learning my second instrument, I said, let's try this guitar thing out. Mm-hmm. And went and found a friend of mine who wanted to sell an acoustic guitar, and was like, I can figure this out. I know how to read music. Let me find a chord book and figure out what, playing more than one note at once feels like. And, kind of learned how to do it from there by playing along with recordings of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And, kind of started really getting into the music that I care about.
So, okay, so this, let's try the guitar thing out.
Mm-hmm.
Was it purely just curiosity, pick an instrument, or was there a shift there that was like, I really want to do this, I've been wanting to do this, or like what took place in the gray area there between here and here?
What it definitely was for me was, I had fun being a jazz trombone player and playing jazz. That was a fun type of music to play. But when I was at home and I was by myself and I'd throw an album on, I'm not listening to Glenn Miller. I'm not listening to, Count Basie. Yeah. I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix. I'm listening to Pink Floyd. I'm listening to the Rolling Stones. Yeah. As a kid, that was the stuff that, my dad raised me on classic rock. So that's a lot of the stuff that I got into early on. And so for me, it was, I recognized that being a trombone player is not something that, as I was about to become an adult leaving high school, it's, one thing to be in a jazz band with 20 other people, but then you got to find 20 other musicians that are like-minded and want to work together. Or, at least a good, probably 7 or 8 musicians to make a small jazz band work. Whereas I recognized with guitar, if I could learn how to play guitar, find a drummer and a couple of guys that are on the same page, 4, maybe 5 guys, boom, you got a band. And it's a lot easier to work with people to make music. So that was me just kind of thinking ahead of like, I know I'm not going to go to college for music, so let me find a way to make music more accessible to me going forward.
That's really cool that you say that, and truly, this I've known Jim for a while, but I didn't know that. Like I'm learning this right now, and that was sort of I'm reacting to this because when I was interviewed on this Explore Washington podcast a couple weeks ago, the same question was sort of alluded to there. Well, I had a big jazz band upbringing before I ever started playing in rock bands. And Scott asked me, who are my jazz influences? And again, it kind of was that I didn't go home and turn on Count Basie. I really loved listening to Buddy Rich stuff because there was this hot driving, Buddy Rich.
Sure. All the energy in the world with that guy.
Yeah. But I loved my jazz band experience because it was the way that I was able to seek to play in an ensemble, regardless of what music I was playing. But it was this powerful experience of learning how to play as a group and learning how I could use all that energy to make me a better player. But ultimately, it came, I knew there would be a point in time where I was going to need to shift that interest in a different direction.
Right.
I want to point out, Scotty Campbell, welcome.
Message retracted.
It was something about, I think,
Ace of
always make friends with heavy metal or something
always
like
make
that.
always make fun of
Absolutely.
Obviously, he didn't like that comment, so he retracted it. But, that's okay, Scott. We still love you anyway.
No, Scott's actually.
Thanks for being here.
So I'm working on one of Scott's amplifiers right now.
Oh.
And if we go down to the shop later, he's got a really cool amp that was down there, and he was asking me about cleaning a tube amp. And I was like, well, just be careful what you touch in there, because if you're working on a tube amp, there are things in there that can and will kill you if you touch it the wrong way. And I'm like, rule of thumb, no metal. Why did I just tell somebody no metal? Like no, play the metal, don't touch the metal.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, back to you.
So, well, and then bringing up heavy metal, obviously, I don't know if anybody else knows this about me, but I have played heavy metal with you guys in Gunslinger, and I even played with another band called Point Zero after that. So beginning to play with Common Thread was a huge switch for me, because it was the time for me to actually think back on jazz and think back on classic rock stuff that I hadn't been playing in a long time, and it was a switch for me from guitar to bass as well.
Right.
So there was a lot of new challenges coming up all at once. Starting to play music with Common Thread, and I'm very thankful for it. It's made me a much better musician, and it's been a lot of fun learning how to play with the Common Thread guys and get used to playing a different style of music. But I still love heavy metal. And one of the things that I've had lots of conversations with my dad about is my dad was always a classic rock guy. He always liked, Zeppelin and Floyd, but he also always liked Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles, and, some of the softer side of the classic rock stuff. And he has asked me lots of times, I try and play a heavy metal song for him, something that I think he's going to be into, even though he's not a heavy metal guy. And he'll always ask me, he's like, why do you like heavy metal so much? I just don't get why you're into it. Yeah. And I say, gee, Dad, let me think about this. You raised me on Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Black Sabbath, and you're surprised that I like heavy metal.
No shit. I mean, those are the biggest influences of pretty much everybody that we listen to right nowadays. Scott also mentioned there's no metal on a PV. There may not be metal on a PV, but you certainly can play
a lot of metal on a PV.
Can play metal on a PV.
PV, we could do an episode dedicated
amps,
to
guitars,
all things PV.
Yes, we could.
As long as we don't talk about the solid state PVs of the early '90s, because
we shouldn't talk about solid state.
We shouldn't talk.
Really.
Well, I mean, it's
some of them are.
It's modern. I mean, that's about it.
But
so
I'll have you know that these monitors are solid state.
Bold words.
Bold words. No, I got tube powered Mackie. No. We can't delete this. We should keep talking.
Yeah. So, taking one step back. Well, I guess I'll save that question for later. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The Common Thread.
Yes.
So this is a group that you're in now.
Correct.
You are a 3-piece without a drummer.
Currently.
All strings.
Yes.
Currently. So kind of tell us what that's like.
It's been really interesting because when I actually started playing with Common Thread, it was an established band already that they had Casey playing guitar and singing. We had a guy named Brennan playing organ. He was playing keys for us, and
Very
most
nice,
of the time he was playing the Hammond organ style. And then we had a guy named Ben playing drums with us. So I was kind of coming in to fill in the gap of we need another bass player to keep doing what we're doing. So it was very much learn the material and find a bass part, learn a way to fit in with what's already there. And so that was kind of interesting, again, because I was coming at it with bass being a relatively new instrument to me, and then being told, figure it out, which was not a bad thing. It was a lot of fun. It was just kind of a surprise to me, because having been more of a classical music, jazz music, and, heavy metal first and foremost, I was used to basically coming at it from a standpoint of, it's already written, memorize what's written and play that.
Right.
And now it was, you are the bass player, work with the drummer to hold the glue of the band together, but nothing's written, figure it out. So it was a fun challenge. And then, unfortunately, with COVID, we had to kind of change gears a little bit. Certain guys in the band wanted to go different directions and follow different passions in their own musical careers. And so that led Casey and I to continue working together and find another lead instrument to play with. So that's when we brought our friend Damien in to play violin. And it's also been a fun thing helping him, join the band, because, again, now he's coming in to fill a gap that he's not used to, because he is a classical orchestra musician. He plays with the Olympia Symphony and has never had to improvise anything before. So it's been kind of fun watching him go through that first exploration of learning how to improvise and learning how to fit into that kind of a band.
I remember he was saying something about that on Sunday being a challenge, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed it. So that's kind of cool. Scott, yes, it very much sacrilege to say no metal on a PV, but that's okay. We welcome all kinds. And remember, if you have a question for us or our guests while we're on, we will try to answer. We're trying to get to the live chat. So feel free to comment, question, anything.
And let us know what you think about this new platform. I have been... This comment brought to you by these sponsors. No. While we switched from Instagram to YouTube, and I can't even count the benefits, but if there's anything that's not working, let us know, because we're always trying to improve this thing. But, so, coming in and playing bass as a guitar player, again, a topic that we could talk about for ages, because there's the right way to do it, and there is the way it's done a lot.
Then there's the Matt way to do it, and the Jim way to do it.
Well, but I think a lot of guitar players, and I think it's probably also a mark of experience. A more experienced guitar player or an experienced individual who's with ensembles, bands, is going to understand that just because you know where the notes are on the strings, it doesn't mean that it's the same technique, that you have the same purpose, that you may understand that you're the glue, but it doesn't mean that that this is your show. Right. It doesn't turn into the gym show.
It takes some getting used to not be front and center and to be okay with that.
Right. But being able to... Go ahead. No.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that I feel like my experience with jazz really helped me out with that, because I was not a bass player in the jazz band, but I played a lower end instrument, having played trombone. And, of course, one of the first things I learned, not just as a jazz musician, but as a swing dancer as well, is you don't listen to the drummer to stay on beat. You listen to the bass player. And the bass player is the one who's setting the pace for everything. Even the drummer listens to the bass player in a jazz band, which is not true in a rock band. Usually it's everyone's listening to the drummer. If the drummer changes speed, everybody matches them. And so it was kind of interesting to me, because I had that thought going in as I'm going to be the bass player, match the rhythms on the kick drum, play the root notes, keep it simple. And then I kept being told by other guys in the band, use the space. There's more space there for a bass. Use it up. And expand on what you're doing, and don't just play root notes, don't just play quarter notes, get creative. And that was something that took me a couple months to get used to, but once I did, then it got to a point where I was able to, as a bass player, apply my lead improv stuff that I knew from guitar and try and find a way to come up with a bass part that would be repetitive and stay out of everybody's way, but that could still be exciting and still be interesting to play.
Tasteful and serving the tune, not just a bass solo for 4.5 minutes.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, though, too. Like, it's not just a drum or a bass keeping the time. They're considered a rhythm section for a reason, right? So it's the combination of the two, whether it be the drum is keeping the steady beat and the bass is kind of filling in the space and keeping it together, or the bass is the one keeping that beat and taking the walk, and the drums are doing all the filling of the space. It's still together keeps that rhythm for the rest of the group, for the crowd or listener to be able to tap their toe along with it, right? That's all rhythm section. So it's kind of that combination and finding the way to meld that in depending on the style, right?
Yeah, and one thing that I've found that has been kind of fun and interesting to go along with that is that this latest instrumentation of the common thread, we have no drummer. Mm-hmm. It's, bass, guitar, violin, and one thing that we've done is Casey has found a pancake kick drum, and put a kick pedal on it, and he sets it behind himself, kind of like if anybody's ever listened to Shaky Graves, you kind of seen him do the two pedals with the kick drum and the tambourine. Yeah. So he does that kind of stuff while he's playing guitar and singing at the same time. So Casey's doing a lot of work to make that work.
You gotta get the whole Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins thing.
Kind of, yeah. The only thing he's missing is the hi-hat, sitting on top of it. But he's got a tambourine that he bungee cords onto a kick drum, and he's laying down quarter notes while he's playing guitar. But that has led me as a bass player to then find a way to keep the beat with no drummer. And again, something that I realized now that I learned a lot of that from listening to jazz music. Yeah. Because there are a ton of great jazz songs out there that most people don't even realize when they're listening to them that there's no drummer. It's just the bass player is doing such a good job of keeping the beat that you don't need a drummer sometimes. Yeah. And so having to play that kind of bass in a blues rock band has been kind of fun, and in a few cases with certain songs has made me reevaluate my bass part to make sure that I can get that job done.
Learning how you can use the space but not necessarily fill the space.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
That's very true. You want to
let's listen to some of this. Yeah. So we've got a tune that from the common thread. This one is called Strange. You want to, before we kick it off, do you want to say anything about this, or we can kind of talk while we listen?
Yeah, this is a fun one because it has gone through a couple of iterations of songwriting and a couple of revisions over time. It has been something that, again, started with, having drums and a keyboard to back up the lead, and now we've pared it down to the instrumentation we currently have in the band, bass, guitar, and violin, and we've still found a way to make it work and make it rock quite a bit, so hopefully you enjoy it.
Keeping score. Well, I can see the land of black and from my place in line. She cut in line. Well, she cut in line. Somebody's brown-eyed lover never got on the same page.
I think for the recording we did a drum and small snare, and there may be a tambourine in there as well. There you can hear the violin starting to come in, and there's a few parts to the violin.
Yeah, that violin really adds kind of a different texture.
And this is an example of one thing that's been fun to do with this group is to really work on who plays when and who doesn't play when to build dynamics. So that you heard an example of where the guitar is still playing but almost drops out so that the violin can still be heard. And then that way when the guitar comes back in, it feels like it has that much more energy.
And this is the way music is supposed to be written. I'll get shot for saying something like that. But at no point did anyone ever have to say that everyone's supposed to play live as they can all the time, unless you're in Bach.
Yeah.
No, there's a time.
That's their thing.
There's a time. But there's a time and a place for everything, and it's really cool that these rock bands get back to. Well, we can use dynamics. Here, boom, boom. The whole thing is popping all the time. So it's a three-dimensional. It's three-dimensional. It's like you've got dynamics, but it's ranged out this way too.
Right. And one thing that, if we get a chance to have the whole band on, if you talk to Casey about it, who has done the majority of the songwriting, when we lost the ability to have a drummer, he talked about let's build the drummer's energy by subtracting to certain locations in the song. So he calls it addition by subtraction, and that's, again, playing on the dynamics off who plays when and who doesn't play when.
I think that's a great way to look at the songwriting and the adjustment made when an instrument's going. It's interesting to hear too a group like your guys' with kind of the non-traditional inclusion of the violin or fiddle, not being a country act or things like that. You know, there's seems to be a lot more of that kind of going on. You guys played with any other bands like that, or have you noticed that as well?
No, we haven't. We played with the Ole Mountain Boys once way back when, but they're of course a bluegrass band.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen any other rock bands that really have tried to include strings. And to my knowledge, when you think of famous bands that have done it, really Dave Matthews Band is the only one that jumps out in my mind.
Yeah, there's a few bands locally. One that comes to mind is another friend of mine called the Old Sweats from Tacoma. Bass player doesn't play bass, he plays cello. Guitarist doesn't play guitar, he plays like electric mandolins.
Cool.
It's bad as hell. It is bad as hell. And it's
certainly
heavy stoner. It's like stoner metal.
Cool. Yeah, playing with instrumentation is kind of fun. Let's hear the last few seconds of this.
That guitar, it almost kind of has that cello,
A little bit, yeah.
bass string. So it's interesting. Very cool.
There we go.
There we go.
So I see on your webpage, thecommonthreadmusic.com, that if you join your mailing list, you'll receive a free download of Second Chances, which is another tune that we're not going to play because we want them to go check it out.
That's right.
But how else can someone come out and get your music? Is that...
The Common Thread is also on Facebook. And I don't know that we have any music posted there, but it has links to thecommonthreadmusic.com. And there have been a lot of recordings that we've used in the past with our previous instrumentation that we've taken off the website because that's not who the band is anymore. So we want to, in the near future, get some more recordings going and put out another album with our current instrumentation and kind of charge forward with what we have working now.
Cool.
Where are you guys playing coming up?
We don't have anything on the docket coming up. We just played at a block party on Cleveland Avenue in Tumwater this last weekend. It was a grand opening for Lux Design Salon. And other than that, we are in the works of trying to get a few shows booked. There's a couple of places that we'd like to get into and start playing, but we have nothing on the schedule at the moment.
All right.
So.
Cool. So curveball, and it's so no judgment if I stump you. But related to marketing and social media, I checked out your Instagram page. It's interesting. It's the lyrics, and it's like little artistic vignettes with lyrical elements.
Okay.
And very little music. Like, is there a strategy behind that? It's interesting. It's compelling. It's thought provoking, and I'm just I'm interested. Or is that Casey?
That would be Casey.
Okay.
That would be a good thing to ask him about because I believe the Instagram page for the Common Thread actually began as Casey's solo project Instagram before even the guys that came before me were playing. So Casey, for a while, was a acoustic singer-songwriter one-man show, and decided that he had he'd gotten his fill of that and wanted to get back to playing with a group. Yeah. And so that's when the Common Thread iteration, before I joined them, that's when we got a full band together and tried to make that work. Yeah. So I think a lot of that stuff may be left over from his solo days.
It's cool. It was thought provoking for me. I thought it was a really interesting way to visually portray musical elements, and it was like it forced you to go into like that poetry side of your head.
Certainly.
Which really like sparked interest to want to hear the music. So, very cool.
Well, they're a very fun band to see live. I've seen you guys a few times.
Oh, thank you.
Both current and previous iterations, and very fun to see live. So go check them out when you can. I wanted to kind of move back a little bit, go back to where we have our common
thread,
common thread, as it were.
He said it.
I did.
Gunslinger.
Oh, we've been muted the whole time.
Oh, darn it.
Anyway, see you guys next week.
That's why Scott's been commenting. He stopped commenting.
People might just find that the show is better if they can't hear us.
Maybe. We've been writing music together. Well, we started writing music together 15 years ago. I don't know. 12 years ago, something like that, when we first met.
Yeah, it was 12 or 13 years ago at this
listening
point.
to heavy metal together, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. And you approached me with a demo.
Right.
That you had 4 or 5 songs that you had recorded with a friend of yours from another heavy metal band from Seattle, Skeletor.
Yeah, it was Robbie, who's one of the guitar players from Skeletor, is also a sound engineer, so he helped me put these demos together.
So tell me about that. Like, where did that come from? Like, why you were able to write these tracks and come up with? You did the guitar. Did you play? I don't remember. Did you play bass on it too, or you had Zach play bass?
I think Zach played bass on it for me. My friend Zach Palmer, former bass player from Skeletor, and a couple of other bands as well. He's no longer playing music at the moment. We're trying to fix that.
Yes.
So
where did that? I mean, how did you come up with these tracks and get the gumption to say, you know what, I want to put this shit down on a CD?
So where it came from for me was, number one, I recognized that up to that point I had been playing in a classic rock cover band, and it was kind of fun for a while, but it was the kind of gigs where we would go play music for about 3 or 4 hours, and it was all cover songs. It was all radio top 40. It might as well have just turned on KZOK. Who cares if the band was standing there? Most people weren't into it. You know, we'd go
old and tired.
Yeah, and not that the music is bad. It's just that it's 40-year-old music that a lot of people have heard before, and so to me, it was beginning to lose interest, or I was beginning to lose interest in that style of music. And I had been going to a lot of heavy metal shows, seeing my friends in Skeletor and other bands around Seattle go and play shows and going to support them at their shows. It really lit a fire under me that I wanted to play heavy metal. I knew I was watching these guys going, I know these guys, and I've jammed with them a couple of times. I can do what they're doing too. Let me give it a try. And so I just figured for the best way to motivate people to potentially want to be in a band with me, I didn't want it to be the type of experience where, hey guys, let's form a band, and then we all stand around and drink beer for a couple of hours hoping that someone has a song idea, and the band goes nowhere and it totally peters out. So I knew up front I didn't want that kind of experience. I wanted something with some direction, and I wanted to have something to show people, this is what I have in mind, so that we can together move in a direction. And if anybody were to listen to my demo and go, that's not my thing, then I'd go, cool, no problem, let me go talk to somebody else. And so that was kind of the main idea behind it. And I'd always have been a giant sci-fi nerd. You guys know this about me. And so I had been, writing songs about sci-fi stories that I was reading and
What are you
sci-fi.
talking about? Nerds? Nerds?
Yeah, right.
Fuck.
As I'm wearing my work shirt right
Yeah.
At Andorian Guitar Works.
Yeah, right.
We're not. Nobody here is a nerd. There's no
We're not
nerds.
nerds at all.
No, not in the slightest.
Football, always.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I like that too. But anyway.
Yeah, you don't have any metal bands writing about football, though. And I think there's a reason for that.
Spandex in
The
space.
Super Bowl Shuffle. Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
So I was writing songs about sci-fi shows and movies that I liked, and about sci-fi books that I'd been reading that I was into, and they gave me a lot of cool visuals from seeing these stories and from reading, and it just a lot of imagery entered my head, and I thought I can do a lot with this musically. And so again, it was the idea of, let me write a couple of songs, let me get my ideas out there, let me show those ideas to other musicians that I might want to work with, and see if I can find a group of guys that we all could get on board with this and move in a direction, so that it wasn't just, let's form a band. Why? What songs do you have written? This went nowhere. Cool, we're breaking up. I didn't want that kind of experience. Right. And thankfully, that's I putting that energy out there. That's where we ended up going. I think we played together in Gunslinger. Brian and I played together for about 7 years, something like that, before we had to take a hiatus, and hopefully in the near future we're going to get back on that train, and Gunslinger will continue with Matt's help as well.
7 years now since the record dropped, since we put out our first album, so it's been a while.
Right.
Sounds like there's probably 30 tracks to go on the next.
Well,
there's at least a dozen that we
have
could
quite a few,
record. Yeah.
At least partially written. We've got some of them, a couple of them that we actually performed live before going on hiatus.
Yeah.
Tested them out as you were, but
What was the gold?
Black
Black
Gold.
Gold.
Black Gold.
Yep.
We
That
also
was a
did
track, man.
From Flame and Shadow once.
Yep.
Which was difficult. That's a tough song.
Mhm.
Can't
But
wait to get
we'll
back
do
to
it
that
again
one.
for sure.
I'm not going to remember Black Gold. I'm going to have to
That's why I wrote it all down, man.
We want you to remember
wrote it
Lady
down?
Jane.
Oh, yeah.
That's-
All right.
That was the other thing too. Is for me with songwriting, again, coming at it from a classical standpoint, especially with heavy metal. I take a lot to heart a quote that I heard David Gilmour say is, write it down, learn it, memorize it. David Gilmour never played a solo for Pink Floyd that he didn't write. So I
I'd get
have
close to
everything
that.
that I've done for Gunslinger. I wrote it all down.
And,
I always admired you for that because there were the MIDI tracks and it was all written down. You could go
Yeah.
and you could listen to it even if you hadn't performed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really bad at writing stuff down, but I got to the point where I said you can at least record it.
Yes.
Because you might have to figure out how to play it again someday in the future. But one, it's there, and two, there's proof that you could at least play it at one time.
Right.
So even if you can't play it now, you can hold yourself accountable.
Totally.
and it's not just writing it down like writing the chord names or
Right.
anything. We were actually writing tab
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we have full
music.
guitar profiles for everything.
we wrote we used a program for it, but we were writing in staff, so everything is written. I've got my parts are in a book that I can flip through at practice and everything, and
Which means you also have ringtones because you can just
kind of because they're all MIDI.
That'll be the next wave of marketing, I think, is get those.
Do you remember
ringtones out
that
there.
back in the day when people actually wanted their phone to ring, so they download ringtones?
Oh, yeah.
And then they download ring back tones because
Yep.
they thought that people might actually want to sit there and listen to a song while they called you.
There's a
I
great
hate
story along those lines that my friend Zach Palmer used to play with Skeletor. He knew that I was not a Kiss fan. I'm
Okay.
still not a huge Kiss fan. In my
Okay.
opinion, Kiss wrote 4 good songs. That's as good as it's ever going to get.
God didn't give rock and roll to you.
No, he's just doesn't lick it up. That's all.
that too. I do get my love gun out from time to time, though. So,
Fuck yeah.
don't we all?
Only in Detroit Rock City.
And so, Zach knew that I was not a Kiss fan, so he set the ringtone when I called him, or if I texted him, to be "I Was Made for Loving You" by Kiss.
Yes.
So that was the only time where we ever laughed about somebody having a specific ringtone on
Fair
their phone.
enough.
I used to have the Oompa Loompa theme song for one of my friends. I won't name him Anthony. Because we had a Special Olympics athlete that used to call him the Oompa Loompa.
To be clear, they called Anthony the Oompa Loompa.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so when he called me, it was the Oompa Loompa song. When I called him, because he was renting a room from me, it was The Mentors Suck for Rent. I don't think he got any better than that. That's just not as good as you can get. So
If you don't know it, go look it up. It's a great tune.
oh, can suck for rent. So we got together. I listened to your demo. I was like, these songs are fucking killer. Like, we can definitely do work with this, right? We sat down. We worked on these tunes. Got a couple other dudes in the band. My brother was our first bass player, and I think my friend Jonathan was our first drummer, right?
Right.
That didn't last very long until then Simon joined, but we took those 4-5 tracks and we ran with it.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with you. What was your experience like sitting with me to write the rest of that stuff? Like, what was your mindset working with me on that stuff? How did you...
I tried my best when we were working together writing new stuff to be as open-minded as possible, and whenever you had suggestions or things that you thought could be changed or made better, I always did my best to at least go, let me save, because we were always writing in front of a music software so we could listen to the MIDI track and play it back and see if that's what we wanted. And so whenever Brian would say, wait, what if we do this? What if we use this interval? What if we use this chord here? I would always go, okay, let me save what we got, save as a new version, plug in what Brian was talking about, and we'd listen to it, and we'd sit there and decide if we liked it right there on the spot.
Yeah.
So that was, I always tried to be as open-minded as I could because I didn't want to be the guy going, it's my band, we do what I say. You know, I never ever wanted that experience because there's always room for improving an idea whenever you're collaborating with somebody.
Yeah, I really enjoyed sitting down and writing with Jim. We always were really easy to bounce stuff off each other. You'd write an entire song's worth of lyrics and have me look at him, and I'm okay. That's cool. Be more poetic. Maybe if we tried this, blah blah blah, and then we look at it. Oh, dude, that's really cool. And then vice versa.
Or no, it's an instrumental. It doesn't need to be poetic.
Well, there was one of those, and,
Yes.
and that one was really cool because like I had this riff, and I was like, "Fucking dude, let's do this." And it ended up being 2 or 3 different parts when we broke it out, but it was me playing the whole thing in chord structure on my acoustic originally, and then we broke it out. And then there was another riff that you had, and we're like, dude, why don't we combine them?
Yeah, right.
And so we put it together, and then
And I think we had a few jam sessions of playing those chords over and over again just to jam and see what works or what we might
how many
improv and add
times to
it.
do whatever intervals, or how many times to loop through the theme before moving on to the next section, and that kind of stuff. And then I had come across a recording of Stephen Hawking saying some cool shit about how the planet's basically going to die, and I was like, we need to use this. So we overlaid that over top of it, so and that became Sailing Through Solar Winds, and
Which is the closing track on the Gunslinger album that we put out.
so it's basically an instrumental. It's got Stephen Hawking talking over it. It can be kind of muddy and hard to hear depending on what you're listening to the
Well,
album.
you remember my daughter's reaction to this.
Scary, turn it up.
Yeah. No,
It's a great reaction.
this album came out before I started playing in Gunslinger. It was 2014.
Yeah.
I think it came out in 2014.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter was 6 at the time, and I loved Sailing Through Solar Winds. I mean, I still do. But that thing was constantly on repeat, and but my daughter's in the back seat, and I'm trying to talk with her too, and so I've got the volume at this level where it's even spookier than it's intended to be.
Because you only hear some of it.
Yeah, and she says to me, either turn it up or turn it off, and it's like, fair enough, we'll go with up.
Yeah. It's a good reaction. I like that.
Yeah.
And your daughter was how old at that point?
She was 6.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I think I told that story when Kathy Brewer interviewed us a long time ago.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And we had such a good time just writing those songs. And,
Yeah, right. And going back to the demo that you were talking about, 4 of the 5 songs that were on that demo ended up on the album.
Yeah.
So we stuck with them and worked through the kinks and really polished them and made them good
definitely.
tunes to
We really
keep
didn't change much in them at all from the original demos. Just polished them up a bit.
might have changed a few guitar solos here and there, done something
A
that,
word here or there, maybe,
Yeah.
to make it flow a little bit differently or whatever. But yeah, it was a fun experience and one that I've definitely missed. So I'm looking forward to getting back
me too.
to get together.
I'm
And
getting excited about playing heavy metal again.
The writing process was interesting for us. It's a lot like, I think there's a lot of bands that kind of do this. The 2 of us would collaborate on the bulk of the writing, and then we'd bring it in and be like, here's the new track, and bass player, drummer, do something along these lines, but be creative.
Right. Yeah, because we always had written parts for the drum and for the bass part as well, but
Real simple parts, though.
Anything that somebody wanted to do to expand on it, go right ahead, as long as it was something that we all agreed on sounded good.
Right.
And you had the finest example of this, in my opinion. That
Lady Jane.
The song was Lady Jane. When Matt started playing with us, it was Brian's brother Sean could no longer play with us, so Matt said, "Hey, I'll step in. I can play bass." And Matt bought a 6-string bass and strung it the same. It was bass octave, but strung it the same as a guitar, so he could do a lot of cool shit with it. And
Very cool shit.
And
Well,
then
the thing about the 6-string guitar is that I had been playing bass in a band before you asked me to be in Gunslinger, but I had finally drawn the line in the sand and said, okay, I'm not playing any bands, and if I play any more bands, I'm playing guitar. So I sold all my bass stuff.
okay,
And it was like a month later, and this guy calls me up.
Hey, we need a bass
I
player.
need a bass
You in?
player.
damn it.
Son of a bitch.
And the thing is, like, for forever, Matt and I were talking, like, if we ever needed a bass player, he was available. So my first thought, when we needed a bass player, this guy.
Back to the music store I went. Said I just sold a 5-string, so what the hell? Let's get a 6-string.
Upgrade.
I
Right?
wish we had a recording of it, and maybe we've got a recording somewhere of a live show, but
Maybe, yeah.
what you did to Lady Jane, he's right.
Yeah, it
A
was.
bass
We should go
lead.
play it then.
It was a bass lead.
Yeah, it was something that I couldn't remember how to play it off the top of my head right now, but
Me
at some
either.
point we'll get back into it and we'll remember how it goes. But yeah, it was just so cool, for you, Matt, to come play with us, and you were jumping into a totally new band, having to learn all the music all at once, and then I think it was the second or third practice you showed up and went, so I got this idea. Let me totally change the bass part. Tell me what you think. And we weren't even practicing. You just started playing it, and I said, "Yep, that'll work."
And I remember is that where I was here in that moment was rewind back to a guitar player stepping into a bass player's shoes.
Right.
Am I just trying to? Like, I was questioning myself too. I had actually lost my litmus test, or whatever. Like, I didn't actually know in this moment if this was musical or if it was self-serving and I just needed to do something that was more challenging to me. And I thought it was musical, but I was really scared to bring it to you because I knew that, like, even though it's my buddy Brian's band, it's really Jim's band, and like, you put up blood, sweat, and tears into all of these parts, and Sean had history with it, and you had some other bass players that had history, and I'm like basically coming in here and saying, so I think we should do this, and I'm either going to get kicked out right now, but it was a very it was a good feeling to know that we were aligned, I guess.
It was really cool because the part that you were playing was almost a lead in and of itself. It was somewhat contrary to the guitar parts and the guitar lead, so it complemented it in this amazing way, and it just made the song that much bigger.
Right.
Everyone,
anytime the guitar went up,
it was always kind of contrary motion, and it was just fantastic.
Which I was ecstatic
we
about
were
because
inverted.
I was ecstatic about that because that's how I write, lead lines anyway.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff on the Gunslinger album, if you go listen to it, that Brian and I's, double guitar leads will constantly, counterpoint each other and cross lines lots of times. And so for Matt to come in and go, yep, let's do that with bass too, I was like, hell yeah, we're on.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that we all have a background in a little bit in composition, whether it's from our education at Central or from being in jazz band and everything. We were all in jazz band too, and growing up with music and just knowing that if I do something a little bit different, it's more interesting. So, like, try that.
Try that,
more
absolutely.
interesting, different stuff.
One
Play
of the-
different instruments.
One
like,
of the
do
little
it.
pieces of advice that I picked up from jazz that it's not something I rely on, but it's a little piece of confidence that I always have in my back pocket, is that you're always only a half step away from a right note.
That's very true.
And like, if you have the vocabulary and you practice so that you can turn on a dime, even if you walk out of bounds, really the worst thing is you do is you create tension, and then you move to the right place and you resolve that tension, and everyone goes, nice. So
And depending on what you're playing, that tension could be more important and cooler than the resolution.
And I have definitely learned one thing to add that, a caveat to that, is if you are doing backup vocals, you might only be a half step away from the right note. The problem is you got to be able to hear it and quickly change it, because if you double down on that note going, I think I'm right, and you're not singing the lead part, it's going to backfire on it in a hurry.
It certainly can.
Yep. Yes, it can.
Do you have any kind of words to live by, especially musically?
One thing that I think this comes from, I think it just comes from, watching a lot of concerts, going to concerts to support other bands, and watching a lot of videos of concerts, or even just listening to music. It's the thought of, if you've seen somebody do it, you can do it too. Don't ever feel like there was a guy that used to play music with us that he always would go to a show and we'd see an amazing performance, and he would leave that performance with the attitude of, wow, I'm nowhere near that guy, I must really suck. Right, that's the exact wrong attitude about it. The right way to look at it is to sit there and go, that was an amazing performance. I'm going to aspire to that. I'm going to try and get myself to that point.
Yeah.
So if you see somebody else do it, you can do it yourself. It's just a matter of how much work you put into it.
I spent so much of sitting watching Instagram guitar, not just Instagram guitarists, right? But guitarists that are playing on Instagram. So much time in that space of, well, do I quit or do I practice? And 100% of the time, the right answer to that question is grab your metronome and grab a piece of paper and draw yourself a map on how you're going to get to where you want to go.
Absolutely.
Because you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely can. And that isn't meant to sound like, kindergarten comments on your report card. Johnny can do anything when he grows up. No, it's truly just get a fucking metronome and draw yourself a map.
Right.
And you'll get there.
Right. And of course, everyone has to recognize that there are steps to be made. I think that's what you're talking about by saying draw a map.
Yeah.
There are steps to be taken to get yourself to improve and to get to where you want to be. But just because, you don't feel like you're there right now doesn't mean it's never going to happen. It's just a matter of how much are you going to stick with it.
Yeah.
Your goals are they're your mileposts.
And tangentially related, because I think it's important. There are amazing guitar players out. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that can do what you see online live. There are. But remember, watch very closely when you're watching Instagram. 9 out of 10 of the people that are shredding on that on Instagram, right behind them is Logic running in the back, is a recording software running in the background. If you don't know what that tells you, this is what that tells you. That video take is a seamless video take. That audio track is not. That doesn't mean that they're crappy players, but don't hold your live abilities to the standard of album recording. That should be your goal, but it doesn't mean that you're failing if you don't nail it like that.
Certainly.
Live performance is totally different.
Absolutely.
I would say, for me, I want my live performances to be different than the recording.
I do.
You want it to be recognizable. You want the song to be the same, and you want it to be different.
Yeah, and I don't want to shoot for a goal less than the album.
Right.
But if the best I can do live doesn't hit this mark, that is not a mark of failure. That's just a mark of reality.
Right.
You should always achieve this, or you should always aim for this.
Right.
But
shit happens.
Yeah, shit happens, man.
And every show's different. And
sometimes you're going to get above that. You're going to get something even higher quality than what you have on recording.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that moment, there was just something magical happening in your hand, or in your mind, or in your heart, or in the audience, or something.
Sometimes you'll find a mistake. I can't tell you the number of times that I have figured out this is what I'm playing over this track, and I go to record it, and I screw something up and it sounds cooler than I did, and then I'm really pissed off and frustrated because now I have to go back and I have to learn the mistake because that's badass and I need to figure that
right,
and now I need to rewrite it with that thing that I don't even know how I played that. How did I make that sound?
Right.
Sometimes it's just accidentally scraping your pick across the wrong part of the string and you got a harmonic in there that I don't even know. There's one track out there that I recorded 15 years ago. I still can't figure it out. It was magic in the moment when we hit record, and I still don't even know how those notes came out of the guitar.
Yep.
Space, man. It was aliens.
Yeah. but that's the benefit of recording your live takes.
Yeah.
And I think maybe another way to look at it is, or maybe this is again tangential to what we've been talking about, but something I believe in is write down what you want to play, and then before you try and record it, play it. And make sure that you can play it, because it's really easy these days to write music, especially using the computer to help you out. If you don't, if you are trying to record something or trying to write something that you don't know if you can play consistently every time, then it might be worth reevaluating what it is that you're trying to write. Because there's, from a guitar standpoint, I think that there seems to be an emphasis of I want to shred all the time. My solos have to be killer every single time. And even from one of the best shredders ever, Marty Friedman of Megadeth, even he said play a few slow notes every once in a while. Hit a whole note and let it write out the vibrato on it for a while because it creates a dynamic. It creates a different feel every once in a while. And so the solos, maybe you can play it live a couple of times to figure out what your solos are going to be, but then the rhythm parts, certainly play your rhythm parts before you record them. Make sure that what you've written is something you can actually play.
Yeah.
Entirely.
And go back to it a week later and figure out if it's something that you want to play.
Yeah,
you know?
certainly.
Sometimes we just get tied up in this mindset of, I want to be able to do this because I should.
Mm-hmm.
Is it musical? If it's not, don't play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of think of Dragon Force in that way, because it's just like everything is virtuosic, but not everything is necessarily musical. Yeah, you can fit a whole lot of notes in there really fast.
But I love the Herman Lee YouTube videos on watching him watching other people try to play through Fire and Flames.
Yep.
Christ. Yeah, no, it's...
Because that's entertaining, especially when the bass player does it.
Yeah.
When some bass player goes out and then, oh, holy shit! Oh, holy shit! Yeah, yeah.
And I watched one of those Herman Lee videos one time. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen on the internet, where he's watching someone else do a cover of a Dragon Force song. I don't think it was Through the Fire and Flames. It was one of the lesser known tracks.
Yeah.
But he's listening to
any other track, no matter how good they are. Yeah.
But he was listening to someone else do a cover and reacting to their video of this cover, and then while listening to someone play that solo, he's sitting there going, "Is that what I played? I don't even remember playing that."
Yeah.
You know, and that tells you that's there really that you don't necessarily have to be married to anything. You know, that Herman Lee seems like a guy where he played something, it was rad, he recorded it, he went, cool, job done, and he may not have even remembered what he did. He might do something different when he plays it live, you know.
And sometimes you have, going back to our interview with Tony. Tony Reed. I was going to say Tony Lee. With Tony Reed, we talked about deadlines, and we talked about deadlines for performances, and when you're actually like when tracks are due, and like when do you know it's done? And he said, well, sometimes the deadline tells you when it's done. Yeah. And when you're in a band like Dragon Force, there's a very good chance that you might not actually remember what you put down that one day because you listened to it. That's good. Do it. Move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you only have so many days in studio, and that's expensive time.
Yeah, certainly.
So, and we'll definitely talk more about studio time in future episodes as well with Tony and with other folks. But
there's certainly something to be said for going into a studio with a game plan and changing midstream, going, "Hey, I just heard that played back. Yeah, I don't like it. Let's do something different."
Yeah, I remember going into studio with Gunslinger to record our record. This little band called Gunslinger. It was really interesting because I was struggling. I had several takes where I knew I could play, and I was struggling. And like I got it once early, but I didn't quite like it. And I kept playing. I kept struggling. Kept fucking up. And our engineer Steve was like, "Perfect is the enemy of good. We need to move on." Yep. And you know that best cut ended up on the album. We may have done some edits with it later on or whatever, but you know, you need to realize that, right? Sometimes you can't be perfect, and when you're live especially, you have nowhere to hide. Right. You're playing out there. I remember when we played Terra Woman at McCoy's. We were playing with Moss Generator that night. We were playing Terra Woman, Dio cover. And
it was a rainbow cover.
A rainbow cover.
Dio was singing.
Yeah. Well, I was singing.
Well, yes. No, Dio played with us that night. I'm kidding.
He was running all over the goddamn stage like his little elf that he was. And of course, as always seemed to happen with my Explorer, the G-string broke. Insert joke there. So I was pissed. I was really upset.
Look at that Strat over there.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. See what's missing?
The
G-string.
The G-string.
The guitar off screen with no G-string. Yep. Presumably because Matt snapped it while
he took the G-string off.
That's true.
So yeah, I was pissed off. I finished the verse, and it was right before the solo. So I finished the verse, and got a string, restrung the guitar, finished the tune.
Like a la B.B. King?
Well, what I did was I broke the string and got pissed off, took it off, put it on my stand off stage, came back on, finished the verse. He was soloing. I went, quickly grabbed a string, strung it, loosely wound it, got back on, finished the tune, picked up my guitar, and tuned it up, and you know, Sean did his little tuning riff on his bass.
Yeah.
And then we moved on, and I mean, I was pissed off. We were doing so good. I was playing the song good, you know, I was playing my rhythm parts well and singing well, and I went and talked to Tony Reed after the show, and he's like, dude, Terra Woman was killer. That's one of my favorite Rainbow songs. And I was like, really? Did you catch that I broke a string halfway through the song? He's like, no, man, it sounded great. So,
Yeah.
Great example of something going horribly wrong, but it doesn't mean it's a bad show.
but we finished strong, and that's what people remember. So, you know, you make a mistake, you move on. If you're in studio, you can fix it if you want to. You can find a way to incorporate it. I mean,
Certainly.
just don't spend forever on it. Talking with my brother when Bacchus was in the studio, his guitarist Jeff, bless him, love Jeff, but Mr. Jeff Gallagher, that is, he is a perfectionist, which is probably why there's no full-length Bacchus albums out to this point. There's a couple of EPs, there's a 7-inch, but no
They've been a band
full-length.
for how long, on and off?
It's been too long to even question at this point, but it's like 30 years. They haven't played for probably 10 years, but they are getting back together, and possibly for long term. It depends on Jeff's schedule, but he's a perfectionist, and you gotta love him. He writes great music, and he always finds something wrong with it. So it's like it's hard to finalize something, to finish something, if you're always finding something wrong with it. So at some point you gotta say it's good enough. Cut your losses, especially when you're paying for studio time and an engineer.
Right.
That shit costs a lot of money. That's not cheap, and these guys are good at what they do, so they charge accordingly.
Right.
So,
And it's worth every penny, too.
yeah.
So, Jim,
Yes.
as a guitar player, I have grown tired of people coming up to me saying,
Play Freebird.
play Freebird. No, that's actually another solo that I have in the back pocket, almost always for that one asshole.
Yep,
No.
exactly.
I've grown
No
tired
stairway
of people saying that, well, you're a musician. You have rhythm. You should be able to dance.
Ah,
And I say, nope. But you
I'm one of those weirdos who
You are
learned
an-
how to dance.
an accomplished dancer.
Yes, that is true.
Twinkle Pillows over here.
What nights? Can we come see? No, I'm kidding.
Thursday nights, it's the spot by the airport. $10
Yeah.
to get in.
You got to buy a Coke.
Yeah, exactly.
Does one help the other, or is it completely a different skill set? And just 5 minutes on what you like to do with swing. 'Cause
I feel like when I first started learning how to play or how to swing dance, that at first it was just trying to figure out what steps happen when, and how you're supposed to do certain things with your body and what your posture is supposed to be like and things like that. And I feel like once I started having fun with it and stopped worrying so much about which dance moves I was doing when, I kind of got to a place that when I was early on swing dancing, because I also was a high school wrestler, that swing dancing was kind of like wrestling to me, that it was like, well, I have to plan these moves in this order or else something's going to go wrong.
Ladies.
And
Just saying.
yeah, so sweep the leg, headlock, all that kind of stuff.
Ladies,
it's all part of
the
swing
ladies
dancing, I
love it when you
promise.
sweep the leg and you put them in a headlock on the dance floor.
One of my favorite
brought to you
dances
by
ever.
Coors Banquet.
That's right. Here, hold my beer. And so once I kind of got over that and realized, I'm supposed to be listening to the music while I'm dancing and having fun, and it's about an interaction between you and your dance partner, and you can have a conversation while you're dancing with somebody. You can actually have fun and enjoy yourself. Once I got to that point, then I started really paying attention to what was I doing with my body, with the music, and that kind of goes back to the thing I said earlier. We're talking about a bass player's role in a band. That's really when it clued into me that in a jazz band, when it comes to timing, no one's listening to the drummer. Even the drummer listens to the bass player. And so it was kind of a fun intersection for me of taking my musical knowledge and my dance knowledge and kind of slamming them together. And I've actually been able to help teach dance in a way where I actually start teaching dance by talking about the music, because so many dance teachers will just say, let's do these moves in this order. And then you put on music and you're supposed to just know how to make it work. It never works that way. You have to explain what the music is doing and explain to dancers, who most of the time are not musicians, what happens with your feet, how do your feet line up with the music, what to listen for in the music to be able to dance along to the music. So it has always been a fun mix of music training and dance training come together.
It's like attitude before technique.
Yeah, certainly.
That's kind of awesome. You know, like, I love looking for these intersections, you know, and like in the former professional life, you know, one of the things I see on LinkedIn all the time now is like, don't hire the person with the skills, hire the person with the attitude. You can teach the skills. And it's like, you find that in dance, you'll find that in music, you'll find that everywhere. It's like, there has to be a desire to want to do it and an attitude that's going to accomplish it, and then just learn along the way. You're never going to bring your A game from the beginning. Just attitude.
And one thing to think about, and this, you know, applies to anything, especially to being a guitar player, is, you know, Matt, I know you teach lessons, so you probably feel the same way about this as I do, that learning to teach makes you better at what you're trying to teach.
Yep.
So, you know, just by having to force yourself to organize your thoughts and figure out, how do I understand this, and then switch gears, how do I explain that to somebody else? Yeah. And that goes for any form of teaching, in my opinion. But
so you're saying, you know, it's not those who can't teach, it's those who can teach can do better.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's that people who, there's one mindset of people where they know what they're doing and they understand how to do it themselves. But if you were to ask them to explain it to somebody else, or, you know, give a lesson to somebody else, they might not be able to articulate what it is that they do. And so that's a special skill by itself. So as a musician, you might consider, you know, offering lessons, you know, for free, or just having conversations with people who do not have quite as much experience as you do, so that you can learn to articulate your knowledge and your skills to somebody else in a way that they can understand it.
That was something that I was reminded of when I started doing those free lesson Fridays. I wanted to take like these little 3 to 5 minute snippets, put them up on Instagrams, not charging, just let anyone, you want to try to dive in and try this. And I think I was showing how to play the intro to Van Halen's Panama. And I knew how to play this. It was under my fingers. I got it, you know. But I'd never sat down and spelled out why. Like, because what you're doing, you're going from like a minor, I don't even remember the chords now, but like those tiny one finger changes over the same chord, it changes each chord voicing, and sometimes even changes just a different inversion of a completely different chord. And the second you start speaking it out loud, it's almost like, you know, like in high school, they tell you if you rewrite your notes, you'll understand it better, because what it's doing is it's like moving the data from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain.
Or even just the act of writing your notes down in the first place is helping you remember it better than just sitting.
But if you like, I struggled with grades when I was younger, and somebody told me, like, because I took the notes during the classes, and we're getting off on a tangent, but I took the notes during the classes, but I still get the bad grades. And somebody said, how do you study? And well, this is how I study. I read my notes. And somebody said, don't read your notes. Just get your notes and get a stack of blank paper. Just copy your own notes. Rewrite your notes. And from that moment, I started getting ridiculously high grades, because it was the act of taking the information, moving it across the brain in one way or another, and that like lights it on fire again. Yeah. You can sit there and you can pull all-nighters and you can read. The same concept with teaching. Like when you start articulating it, when you start writing it down, when you are forced to teach somebody, you learn it yourself exponentially better than you even knew it before.
Certainly.
It's wild.
And like I was saying, that applies, in my opinion, to any kind of teaching. Certainly to teaching on someone else to play a musical instrument.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right on. Well, we are just a little over an hour. Yeah. Did you want to show...
I was going to show the shop, but we had a really, you know, we're sitting in an hour. I want to try to keep this to an hour. We'll do the shop another time. All right. We'll still take Jim down and show it, but we'll let everyone on YouTube.
We won't do that on camera, though. Right? So
well, here, we'll do this.
Take me to the wood shop.
I will show you.
Yeah, we do have a camera set up. This is the shop.
So this is one corner of the shop. Screw it. Let's just go. Let's just go. You want to stay up here and talk to us?
I can stay up here and talk.
You want to check out the shop?
Is there any?
Jim?
Do you have the sound on?
The sound is on. You should be able to hear us. If not, the cans are there, and then just turn up the can volume. But there's no light.
All right.
So you'll have to.
So they are going
You're gonna go somewhere.
downstairs.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, they're going to magically appear.
Too dark.
No, too dark. Oh, never
There's
mind.
no light outside.
And they're gonna magically appear.
Reappear.
We
So
will do
anyway,
this again another time because
Do a tour. It's
I don't have any lighting on the way to get to the shop, and we're all gonna die trying to get there, or we'll fall into the blackberry bushes, and it won't be any fun.
It doesn't sound like fun at all.
No.
No, not at all.
Well, we might make a pie.
Huh.
Yeah.
Done that before. Scott was excited. He liked it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Sorry,
Scott wants
we just
me,
blue balled Scott. Sorry,
Scott
Scott.
wants
Sorry.
me to go down to the garage. All right, you guys talk.
We could
I want to find a flashlight. We're gonna do this.
It-
Well, I mean, we have
may
cell
never see
phones
Matt
and
again if he
stuff,
trips
right?
you
Well,
down.
Matt doesn't have a cell phone. His is downstairs in the shop. All right, what do I got to do here?
What do I got
The
to do here?
interview show template.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that.
Okay.
So, if Matt finds
You have a
a
flashlight on your phone?
flashlight,
I do, but my phone's currently not turned on because I didn't want to be that guy.
well, my phone is on. I've actually been logged into the
Turn your flashlight.
YouTubes.
Let me borrow your phone. This is really professional.
This is extremely professional.
All right, let's go. Let's go, Jim.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Damn.
And then magically they will appear in the shop. Diddly-doo, diddly-doo, diddly-doo. That's a little early, huh? Well, trust me, Scott. They will be there in a minute. So stick around. Diddly-doo, diddly-doo. There they are. Hey!
Here we are.
You made it. You're live.
All right. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. So let's flip this around. So this is the Andorian Guitar Works custom guitar shop. And so this is the most important thing in the shop, honestly, because otherwise you're going to die.
Yeah, the shop back is very important. Clean that dust.
The shop back. This is really where all the big shit happens. This is the quick preview of what we've got coming. This is the new. Woo! That's the new body style. That the template is on the CNC machine right now. It's an Andorian Guitar Works exclusive custom. We're gonna start producing that like ASAP. Drill presses and bandsaws and. we've got
Hey,
this
look,
really cool PV
it's a
that's in-
Peavy.
It's a PV, and that's in for service tomorrow.
Oh, template is carving
we've
this
got-
weekend. Brad Jennings has just signed on and let us know.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Brad.
So if you saw the TikToks recently, you may have seen a video with this guy. We're going to repaint the purple. We're going to go pink. So she's back. This is the BC Rich. Kind of looks like Mr. Grinch down here. But we're all taped up and ready to go right metallic pink. Over here, we've got a Epiphone Les Paul Studio in the shop for tomorrow as well. So we're going to pull an Invader up out of this Ibanez and stick it in this Les Paul over here.
That'll be fun.
Something's buzzing. Are you hearing the buzzing?
I am not hearing the buzzing.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's just Zoom. Zoom is fun.
Maybe.
But anyway, this is where I spend most of my days now. And the next step is to turn this black hole into spray booth. So we'll put this queen around the entire thing and high flow vent in and high flow vent out with charcoal filters and whatnot, so that I'm EPA compliant and everything, and don't end up owing the environmental fines and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
yeah, you got to take responsibility when you move from hobbyist to doing it real time. You've got to be able to demonstrate that you're trying to protect the world you live in, which is a good thing because that spray shit is toxic.
That's a very good thing.
So,
And so this is all work that you have done. This room, you not necessarily all
man.
alone on your own, but with you and a couple other gentlemen worked on
this
closing that
room
in.
yeah, this used to just be what you see, under a house, which is basically a half crawl, half shop. And if anyone wants a ping pong table, I've got one under here that needs to go away. But yeah, so then we just repurposed. We framed this out. We made sure that everything was up to code in terms of making sure that the dirt was held back and making sure that this wall was moisture proofed so that it will stand the test of time. Framed everything in. Nothing here is load bearing, right? Because it was already standing. So we just framed it and sheeted it and taped it, mudded, ran the electrical, ventilation. This is a picture. I don't know. I always wonder if somebody in the world is going to recognize this painting, because this painting was painted on the wall in a house that I sold like 10 years ago in Tumwater. I think it was painted in the 50s. And it was left in the garage. And when I moved out of the house, I just had to cut it out of the house and take it with me. So I love this thing. It's probably just somebody's hobby, but I've taken it with me ever since. And I figured it should live in here.
Now,
So anyway.
Scott Campbell did mention that is a cool PV, and I'm sure he's wondering to himself whether or not metal has been played on it.
Well, but I'm pretty sure Scott's going to play some metal.
There you go. He did say, "Wonder whose that is."
No idea.
No idea.
And this Blockwatch neighborhood sign may have been stolen from my neighborhood when I was 16 years old. I'm not sure.
You didn't do it though, that's right.
I actually, it was left in my front yard. I had a friend that would always steal things from McDonald's and leave it in my yard, and then my dad would get pissed at me because my friends were leaving gifts in our front yard, and I think that this was one of the gifts.
Nice.
So that's, if anyone from 1998 who lived in the Fairwood area is missing their Blockwatch neighborhood sign, you weren't very effective. And I have your sign. So
Sweet.
cool.
Scotty, I
Any
certainly
questions?
hope that you do play metal on that PV.
Right on. Well, we're gonna kill this guy, and we'll be right up.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man.
And in a moment, they will be back upstairs. Brad Jennings wants you to play ska, Scott. I mean, if you like. We had a killer ska band on a few months back, so. All right. Awesome. Keep that rocking. I love the comments right now. This is wonderful to have the conversation going on too. We try to keep that going. We try to do that on Instagram. We'd like to keep that going here on YouTube. So even if you're watching this after the show, make sure that you always. Nope, they're back.
The comments start happening.
Well, when you went downstairs,
Here's your phone.
that's just how it worked.
Checked it out.
Yeah. So I was just saying.
Apparently, Jim wasn't as interesting as the show.
That's okay. I'm used to that.
I'm kidding.
Well, what I was just getting to that. I love the comments that are happening right now, and we want to build that community. We want to have that conversation. So even if you're watching this after the fact, put a comment in, ask us a question. We will get to it at some point. If you're live on the show with us and ask us a question, we'll try to answer it as quickly as possible. When you comment, we'll try to respond.
Brad wants us to play ska right now.
No, I think Brad wants Scott to play ska on the PV.
Oh,
Okay.
loud ska.
Loud
Really
ska.
loud ska.
Loud distorted
The way
ska.
it should be.
But, so yeah, I think we are at an hour 15
We're at an
now.
hour 15 minutes right now.
Can I do a couple of shameless plugs before we go?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
You guys have already seen the one website, the commonthreadmusic.com, commonthreadmusic.com. That's where you're going to find all of our stuff. And, Matt was showing...
CommonThreadMusic.com.
And you got to say it 3 times. That's advertising, right? So the one thing that you'll also see on there is usually if we have shows coming up, we'll post them there as well as on the Facebook page for the Common Thread. And then since we were talking about Gunslinger, it is something that in the near future we are going to get back to getting Gunslinger out and getting him on stage again. So Gunslinger Oli on Facebook as well as Gunslinger Oli on Bandcamp, and that music is still there. And we have I think about 20 hard copies of CDs left, and otherwise we are about to run out of the physical media
Yeah.
from
We do-
the original Gunslinger recording.
We do have some available for download on the Bandcamp, and also I think CD Baby still has some available downloads and possibly some available albums. CDs.
perhaps.
But
So
And that's a domain that's going to be irrelevant with the younger generation. Like,
no kidding.
what's a CD?
Yeah, right.
yeah, I think you're probably right.
the hell is a
I
CD?
hate
Yeah.
that. I'm a physical guy. I want the record. I want the CD. I want to be able to read the lyrics from a lyric sheet that I pulled physically out of something.
Or at the very
But
least,
I-
you want to have control over
Yeah.
your MP3 files. You know, that's the kind of
Yeah.
the downside of Spotify is that you can download something and then
Yeah.
they could just decide to take it away from you.
I'm cool with scratchy vinyls. I'm okay with broken needles. I'm okay with cracked CDs, but I will never miss rolling ribbon back into a cassette.
With a
There
number
is-
2
there
pencil.
is
Yep.
nothing about that experience
Yep. Yeah.
that did anything for me.
When a tape wears out and stretches.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. You know, the painful realization that it doesn't matter how much you tighten it, that tape is done. Yeah, that's always a bummer.
Tape is gonna die.
Yep.
Scott Campbell says, fellas, and I have to believe that's going to be followed by some long comment about how old we are.
I don't know. He's gonna piss the neighbors off though. That's good. We like that, blowing ears off. Not miss my tape being eaten. Yeah,
No,
that's
yeah,
the biggest
done
thing.
with tapes.
Brad, appreciate that comment for sure. Anything else?
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being
with
here.
us,
Absolutely.
brother.
Matt, congratulations on enduring.
Thank you so much,
And
man.
we're happy to see where this goes. from
And happy
here, man.
birthday again.
Thank you
Happy
very
birthday.
much. Thank you. Yeah.
Happy 73, 37.
37 in a row.
What's
yeah.
your favorite guitar riffs? We're getting some questions.
What's your favorite guitar riff?
You know, I thought about that. One of my favorite guitar riffs is the primary riff from "Hall the Mountain King" by Savatage. Never get tired of listening to that track. It's always fun.
Very cool.
I'm not sure what mine is off the top of my head. It's probably something from the Helicopters because I fucking love the Helicopters. Nick Royale can play the shit out of a guitar as well as drums.
I'm a big fan of Satriani's The Extremist. That thing
okay.
There
just,
you go.
that rips.
Cool.
And it's really actually an achievable tune. That's I think Satriani's music is very cool for that guitar player that wants to get into the world of shredding. It's very methodical. It's very challenging, but there's a way he does it, and you can break it down and you can learn it and give it a, depending on where you're at, a day, a week, a month, and you that progress to where you're going to be. And when you sit down and learn The Extremist or Satch Boogie or any of those, I love.
Or "Time" is another one.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
I actually just came up with an individual Helicopters song that the riff is fucking amazing. It's "Hopeless Case of a Kid in Denial."
Great tune.
Off their high visibility album.
Yep.
It just opens with this killer, like, acoustic riff. So
Yeah.
Yep. Certainly.
I tried to learn surfing with an alien. I think.
Surfing with
That's
the
tough.
Alien. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. What is the one? The
No, it was Satch Boogie. Yes.
Yeah.
Also yes.
he's got his legato abilities though are just, I don't know. I gotta start doing like finger push-ups or something.
Just walk around with
Yeah.
one of those things.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget Tenacious D. Your cock push-ups. That's
Really
important
Green
too.
Day hard stuff. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
So Brad, what's your favorite early Green Day album? Are we talking about Smoothed Out Slappy Hours? Are we talking about Kerplunk? Or
It's got to be Kerplunk
I
for
fucking
me.
love Kerplunk, man.
That's the most like nerdy punk love songs on that.
Oh, dude,
Like
I heard. So
like
when
some
I
of the
was,
most cheesy shit.
when I was in 7th grade, I had this crush on a girl named Christy, and
Oh,
there was there's Christy Road, and I couldn't stop listening to that tune, And then I just listened to the rest of it, and I think Kerplunk was their best album. Like,
Probably.
I think
that damn thing told a story, start to finish.
I will say I think Nimrod was probably their most punk album.
Yeah.
Nimrod was more produced, but it was very punk.
Yeah.
Like not just pop punk.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hit harder than the earlier stuff. So
But Nimrod was also Good Riddance was on that one, wasn't it? The acoustic.
Was that on Nimrod or was that the one after that?
I don't remember.
Warning.
It's been a while. Found it funny they couldn't play basketball. I said, "Oh shit, really?" I didn't want to know that.
Well, Isn't that the one that was talking about masturbation losses?
No, that was Longview.
That was Longview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basket case.
All right.
Interesting.
We're going to sign off at an hour and 21 minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a long one. Sorry for dragging it out, guys.
No.
No,
It's
stop.
perfectly
No.
fine. You know, we've been
The
doing
comments are
this.
rolling. There's nothing to apologize
Okay,
for.
good.
We
Thought we were awesome.
yeah.
They said thought they were awesome because they said the F word.
Yeah. Dude,
Well, because we were like what, 14, 13?
my first Fender Strat, like I wanted it to look like Billy Joe's.
You wanted to paint on it with.
Well, there's the paint and the stickers, but like, how do you go out and find stickers, right? Now, stickers are acquired through life and you stick them on your guitar, but when you say, I need stickers, like, it's just going to look like you walked into, a Hallmark store and stuck a bunch of stickers. And
I have no problems with that.
Or
Right,
back
sure.
in that day, probably.
Well, what I did-
Spencer's or something.
Yes, but what I did, because I was, I was the way I was, and we had just gotten our first computer. So I logged on.
Packard
I
Bell 486. Yeah.
got onto America Online and printed off
Threw
cool,
in one of
and
those
then
discs.
I cut them out and I taped them onto the guitar. And so I went to my 9th grade jazz band concert with like a guitar that was obviously supposed to look like Billy Joe's fucking Strat with fake stickers taped all over it.
Like laser jet printed.
Yeah, laser jet printed,
Missing some of the ink.
Scotch tape,
The lines
stuck.
through it.
And man, my jazz band teacher, I just remember the look on his face, and I was too young to understand what that look meant.
Mm-hmm.
No, I give that look to my daughter all the time right now.
Dude, my first guitar was my brother's PV Roadstar, and it already had a few stickers on it, so I had no problem just sticking my own on it
Yeah.
and making it my own. It was this just shitty old PV white with a black pick guard, so it's real easy to cover it with stickers.
Yep.
Any sticker I could. So
Yeah,
All right, we're signing off.
yeah,
Alrighty.
it's time. Thank
Brett,
you
let's
for
rock more.
being
Thanks for
with us.
listening. Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's
I
rock
appreciate
more.
it.
Yeah, man. Again,
Good to
thank
see
you. Keep watching, keep listening. Send us questions and comments at any time.
But not right now. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You wanted us to wait? No. Good night.